With all of you, Martin Leblanc.
Hey guys. So I have the honor of being the last speaker today. I hope you really enjoyed Upscale. I had the pleasure of meeting a bunch of you, talking to you, and I really have fun. I think also that the other talks the 2 days here have been super inspiring. I'm going to talk about it's a topic that I'm really passionate about, AI's impact on how we design. So it's going to be a lot more practical, but I'll get back to that. My name is Martin Leblanc. I'm Chief Experience Officer at Freepik. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on who I am and where I come from, just so you can put some of the following slides into context. So this is actually the first design software I was using when I was a kid in the 80s. It's called Dr. Halo. It's actually design software from before Photoshop. And when I was a kid, I actually started drawing with this kind of software. And when other my friends were maybe playing games, I was actually sitting doodling with that kind of stuff. Later, when I was a teenager, I worked with Photoshop, started doing posters and flyers. I think a lot of people my age has this experience with Photoshop and starting just to do minor freelance tasks and so on. I eventually changed focus to being really focused on 3D Studio Max, animation, and I think around high school, my biggest dream was to be an animator at Pixar. But I think very quickly I figured out that being an animator at Pixar was, you needed some very special skills. And it was a lot easier to actually earn some money from working on the web. So I started working on web design and so on, helping e-commerce customers. And instead of only focusing on design, at this point, I started seeing how much you could do with code. So instead of only doing the design work, I started studying computer science. And by the end of the studying at university, I came up with this idea that I could build a search engine for icons called Iconfinder. And when I was done studying, I worked on that full time. So raised some money. It was my full-time job for many years until I met with the founders of Freepik, and they acquired Iconfinder in 2022. So that's where I am now, and responsible for audio products at the moment. Audio products being voiceovers, music, and sound effects, and so on. So that's what I do now. And also, just a side note, I have a passion for music. I produce music in the old-fashioned way, so not using Suno, actually using a keyboard and so on. And this is one of my tracks being played at a festival. So I have this just passion. It's never been like a profession. What we're going to talk about today is how AI changes the way we design, and it's going to be very practical. I think we had a lot of talks over these 2 days with really impressive work, and you could get really inspired by it. But it's also, if you look at something really inspiring, you also want to know how it's done. So this talk will be way more about how you do it. So it's going to be, if any of you are starting out using generative AI, maybe you have a job where you're being asked to learn about it and so on, I think it's going to be for you. So just a quick note about, when I say design, design is different from art. So design is, you can solve a problem, it's communicating a message, whereas art is about personal expression or provoking thoughts. And I think a lot of the stuff that we see with generative AI is art. I have no problem with that. The thing that we're going to talk about today is design. So we're going to be designing. And I did some talks last year, some different conferences that is very similar to this one. And last year, when I was doing these talks and showing how you can use the tools, I had a fictive product and the Ficto product was like a solar panel and so on. But this year I wanted to create a presentation around a physical product. And this video is me running last morning. One of the benefits of jet lag is that you can see sunrises because you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I went to the Twin Peaks, saw the sunrise and so on. So I have a big passion for running. And the product that I chose is like this pulse watch. So I actually have it on. It's looking like this. So today we're gonna pretend that we are doing basically marketing material for Garmin. They haven't paid us. I didn't ask for permission. I just bought the product in a shop, brought it home, and then I was like, okay, we're gonna do this right for this product. And I can just pass it to somebody here, and you can just pass it along so everybody can take a look at it. As long as I get it back in the end. So we have this product, right? And I think maybe just raise your hand if you're working for a company that has a physical product, or if you're an agency with clients that has physical products. How many? Yeah, that's pretty good. Around half. So you will, when you use generative AI, you will definitely face some of these issues. The first part is going to be about how we're going to create a product page, so like a web page that presents the product. In this presentation, I'm going to use Freepik tools. For those of you who don't know exactly like how Freepik works, it's basically we have an AI suite that integrates many different APIs from many different companies. So it's like Kling, Google's VO2 product. We have image generation and so on. So we have like a wide range of models that can be used for video images and so on. Everything that you see in this presentation, you can go to the specific providers, or you can use another product and so on. It doesn't matter. It's more about like the creative process and the workflows. So just kicking off, like we have our tool here, which is essentially like a ChatGPT, but with a whole bunch of like design features. And it's a really good starting point when you have a creative work. So I'm just going to be starting. I want to have like a layout for the product page. So I'm just going to kick off by putting in a prompt, roughly what I need, and it's going to give me a wireframe, so I have an idea about how the product page is going to look. When I build pages like this, I think compared to the past, I actually go from wireframe directly to coding, just skipping Figma. I think if you are like a front-end developer or a designer now, you are probably also seeing that you can actually just go straight to cursor. So that's going to be how we're going to do it today. So the product page has 3 sections. That's going to be like a header where we have the product. And it's going to have this kind of like fancy interaction where when you scroll, it's going to rotate the watch. So it's a really nice feature, just showing the customer the product from different angles. There's going to be a section where we have like some details about the watch. I want to have this kind of like classical Apple-ish image where a hand is holding the watch, super clean. And then in the bottom, we're going to see a person from the target audience wearing the watch. So we'll have a person wearing the watch on. So the first problem is basically how do we generate images that features a product? And to do that, I'll show a bunch of videos like this, and you can follow along. I'm going to click around the UI, just explain what we're doing here. So the thing that we are doing now is like we are going to be creating what is called a LoRa. A LoRa is basically sort of like a fine-tuning of an image model. So you can give it a set of images, and I give it also like a name here so I can use it later. But I'm going to take a whole bunch of images of the product. I took some images with a good camera, so you can see here like on a table with a neutral background, on my wrist and so on. And I'm just going to train LoRa with that. So that's sort of like just step 1. I'll get back to which images you should use for this. But then when I'm now generating the image and putting in the prompt, you can then say a hand holding a white, and then say Garmin watch, and I'll call solo. And then I'm just referring to that specific product LoRa. And now generating the image. Let's see. So you can see now we have the product in those images. And some of them will be some of them will be, this one is quite good. Maybe there's something about the UI, but you can see the strap is good and quite precise. So this is really like, personally, you can probably do this in many different ways. I found that this technique is the most effective at getting all the details right. So the product lore, the key thing to getting good results is the training data. And there's a few tricks to this. You want the product to be, the images to be high resolution. If you, for example, let's say you're just gonna be like, oh, I'm just gonna download some images from Google Images, and there's like some JPEG artifacts or low resolution, you're gonna have those problems when you generate images. So, high quality is really important. And then there's another thing which we noticed is that if you don't show the product in use, the model won't know how big that product is. So let me show you an example. So this is like, a little coffee pot that can make like a cup of espresso. But if you don't train it in relation to a human, you get interesting results like this, where it's like, 2 liters of espresso, right? I think we need 2 liters of coffee right now, but anyways, good results with product lores. There's a few like just bullets here, like high resolution images, neutral backgrounds. If you have something in the background that is not neutral, it will also affect your product lore. So it's not intelligent enough to figure out what is the product and what is the background. So if you take all the photos on grass, you will also start getting grass in the images, right? So you need to cover all angles. So figure, like, if you want to have images, for example, on the watch, there are some buttons. There are 3 on one side and 2 on the other side. If you don't include those, it will just come up with, how many buttons like. You want to show the product in use, and then also, if you want to have images for specific shots, it's better to just train multiple. You can just train, like we want to have one with the display on, one with the display off, then you do 2 different lores. So this is one of the results, really nice quality. I think this one was actually also upscaled, but the real thing, why would you do this? Why would you not just take that photo? First of all, like a photo like this, I don't know if you tried taking a product photo like this, it's extremely difficult. Just holding your hand and getting like a soft rubber strap to be like this is really difficult. But the benefit is also like if you're making campaigns, you can just, it's like, the spring campaign, or, here you can just quickly move your product around and get really good results like this. AI, to be honest, AI is, even I'm coming from Freepik, but it's not perfect, right? These results, you can see the Garmin logo is there. You can see it says Garmin, but the copy on the watch is not quite there. So, this is not. We want to show this to a customer. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a bit of editing. So this tool I'm using here is just it's called Retouch. You can go in with a little brush. If you tried using Adobe Firefly, you can, what it is. You paint over what you want to change. You can prompt and remove it. So you can basically like clean up that image very quickly. And then the next step, this is actually basically like non-AI. This is a little tool we have. It's called Freepik Designer. And I'm just going to place an image of the UI on top of that image. So we have all the details correct. And then we get this kind of result. So this is the image that I wanted for the second section. And now we have like the product lore. We can move to the next step. So I want to do the header, and we wanted to do this rotation. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So we have the initial image here, which is generated. This one was with the flux and with the object lore. The resolution is about like 1K, so not high enough. So we'll do upscaling. This is upscaling with Magnific. To me, the best upscaler without comparison. And then we do the retouching, removing the details, adding the UI. So now we have the product here placed it on a block of ice, and now we want to rotate it. So that step is also happening inside the AI Suite, and here we need to use, this is Google Veo 2, and then we put the product image inside the tool. Let's see. So it's going to be like using that as a start frame. And then in the prompt, we've specified we want to have the camera moving around the product. And then I'm also adding a bit of details. I'm telling it there's like a snowstorm just to add some, some fun effects. So there's going to be like some snow falling also on the video. So generating that, you get this result. And one thing to note is that even though I placed the UI of the watch, it was sort of like looking quite flat. You can see when it's being generated as a video, there's actually reflections, and you have this kind of like depth. You can feel like almost like the LED display is like a few millimeters in the watch. So it's actually converting my pretty flat image into something realistic. So this is 720p. So if we were doing a web design, it's not high enough resolution. So we go to upscaling, also inside Data Suite, using the Topaz engine, and also going from 24 frames per second to 60 frames per second. So we have this nice animation, which was step 2. And the last image is to put the product on a model. So we have a person from the target audience to wear the watch. And for this model, we want to have I want to create like a fictive person. So it's basically, the approach is basically like you describe as a prompt who that person should be. Like, how does she look? She's young, athletic, black woman, late 20s, deep brown skin. She has, there's like also a description of her clothes, her hair, and so on. And in the end, it says like she's wearing the watch on her left wrist. And to do that, I'm using a feature called the style here. And I can basically go in a little bit similar to the object lore. I can give it a name, description, and then instead of giving it a set of images, I put in this prompt. You can think of it a bit as like as a system prompt for this person. So whenever I'm going to generate something now, it's going to take that prompt of her and then inject that into when I'm generating the image. So now I'm just going to put in a female runner on a morning run. I select the style that we created, like this, and hit generate. And now I will be getting a consistent, like a girl that looks like this consistently. So now we have like our person that we can use for the campaign. And now we need to combine the two. We need to combine the product lore with the model. And that step is quite simple. It's basically selecting the product lore at the same time as the style, and then you start getting that combination of a person wearing the watch. So because we're working, this is design, not art, we have some requirements. So we want to have this image, but we want it to have some text on top. So we need to move her out of the center of the frame and to the left. And to do that, I'm using a tool. This is called Expand. And it basically allows me to, expand the frame of the image and then let generative AI create what's missing, right? So it's figuring out that she's standing in the gym, and then it's giving me different variations of what basically the missing pixels. So I have that image now with her all the way to the left. And the resolution is around 1,400, so I'm going to upscale it so we have a nice resolution for Retina display for web. I'm using Magnific again. Portrait model is great for people. And the last step here, this is also not AI-based. I just prefer, I always like, sometimes you can get like too soft skin and so on. Adding a bit of grain always like adds a little bit more realism. I'm also adding a little bit of blue to the image just to make it a little bit color graded. So in the end, we have a beautiful product image. You can actually see the watch here, like the right number of buttons, the holes in the strap, and everything. So we have an image that is ready for use on web. So the workflow, basically generating the image. We're using the Flux model. We're using the style. You can also use like a character lore. We're using the object lore for the watch. And editing is retouch for the details, expand, changing the ratio, Magnific for upscaling, and then adjusting, adding some grain to do some realism. So those are the three components we needed, and now it's time to, put that into on Vercel or whatever you want, using cursor to create the UI. And I'll just show you. I don't want to do a live demo, but I took a screen recording of how the website looks, and you can see when you're scrolling, you're sort of rotating the watch, get a really nice sensation of changing the position. We have the section with the specific details, and then our model here in the end. So this is a way to go from a product that your client has or your own company has to building a web design. Cool. So that's step one. The next challenge is we also want to create an ad for this product. And to do this, we have a team internally called Creative Labs. Some really amazing guys who knows everything about the different tools we have, and we collaborated on creating. We just basically sat down and said, let's pretend that we are creating this marketing, this video for this product. It has to be around 1 minute, and we need to be, really. It should not just be gimmicky. It should be proper, storytelling in really a convincing way. So that was the challenge. The concept we had for this video was this kind of conversation. If somebody asks you, "How are you?" "I'm good." Usually it's just your average response, but we wanted the video to be about the inner dialogue of this woman who's going on a morning run, where she's feeling good afterwards. But when she's running, she's reflecting on that. What does it mean to feel good? And we also deliberately, we didn't want to have the product in focus. We wanted to focus on the feeling of running, and how good you feel about yourself, maybe afterwards, right? So that was the intention. So the storyboard is this woman waking up in the morning. She's just preparing herself, putting on her running equipment. She's also having an espresso, walking out the door, and then she's ready to run. And we see her sort of traveling through the city. So that was the concept. At this point, we don't know whether we can do this, and I think this is really important. When we're working with generative AI, you cannot be too stuck on a storyboard, because you might run into problems. We're going to see some of the challenges we had. But one of the things we knew we had to do was we needed to figure out whether we can make a person run and it would look convincing. So, and I tested some of these are early, mid-2024 video models. I'm not going to name them here because, it's not, they basically just gave bad results, right? The first example was one model. It had her. I was asking for the camera to follow the person running, but still running off the frame. So not good prompt adherence. The middle one is something that I think many video, or if you tried using generative AI for video last year, you had this problem where in the beginning of the video, all the colors looked great, and then it became oversaturated. And then the last problem is regarding structure and limbs. And if you notice this, you can actually see her left and right leg. They actually swap positions. And of course, it's not suitable. So, but luckily we have new models here in 2025, and this is, for example, Google Veo 2. Close to a perfect running loop, right? So the first challenge, right? Can we make a person run, make it convincing? The answer is yes. So we had go ahead on that. The other thing we wanted to do is also we wanted to have consistency throughout all the different shots. And to control that, we did a style again, but this time we have, besides the character, we also defined the time of day. So we want to have morning light for all the shots. We also chose location. We chose Malaga. That's where Freepik is. So beautiful city. And we also had some, definitions of the aesthetics. We wanted this to be like a, a modern product ad. So we added some different things to the LoRa. So you can see here now we put the model we had from before, and we put her in running in Malaga. So we are now like, okay, good. We are now, the right location, the right character and everything. Next up, we had like a whole bunch of options to pick different models. I'm just going to show you a bit of which ones we use for different shots. The first one was using a start frame from Flux, but Higgfield for controlling this really nice rotation of the camera around our model. And Higgfield, I don't know if you've tried it, but anything that has to do with camera movement, they are incredible. Next up, we have Kling 2.0. Amazing also. It's really strong on this kind of shots that has a little bit more action. You can see here, like the camera is shaking. It's a close-up. This is really where Kling can shine. And then finally, we use Google Veo 2, often actually just text to video, so not even using a start frame. The strong sides of Google Veo 2 has also been, for example, here you have a complex animation because she's standing on the sidewalk, and then she's walking and then running. So there's quite a lot of different changes, but you can actually prompt that and get good results with Veo 2. So yeah, just a quick summary. And then we also knew that we were going to show this video on a big screen here. So you can actually see all the little details. And some of the questions we had was, do we actually get an effect from upscaling? Like if you're using a start and end frame, you need to upscale it, right? So we're like, okay, let's try it. Let's figure it out. So we have here, this is the output from generating with Flux, around 1K image. And this is the video. So you can see her skin is quite smooth, right? And we want to have like, proper skin texture. So now we go to, this is upscaled with Magnific. Now you can see almost four times more pixels. So a lot more information in this image. But the thing is that whenever you generate video, you're not going to get a video with that resolution. You're going to get a video with around 1K again. So the question is basically like, if you take this image that's way larger and you generate a smaller video, are you getting better results? So here's the video output from the upscaled image, and you can actually see that you can now see there's some texture in her skin. So the two videos you saw are the same resolution, but in the second one, after upscaling, it has more details. So you can see the difference here, like some details on her sweater, and definitely like the forehead and the cheek. So, and this is upscaled one last time. This is upscaled again also with Topaz, which adds even more details. So we're actually going from a video, if we were just going from Flux and generate a video, you would have a model with very soft skin. Upscaling, also using Topaz, you end up getting actually a nice skin texture. So that's a problem you can fix. And one thing was like the conclusion, I think, is that it's not really about the resolution of the start image. It's about whether it contains details about, like, does it actually show, the pores in her skin and everything. So we got some of the quality under control here. And the next one I'm going to talk about is basically this hooks a bit into like the creative process, because some of the shots that were the most difficult were actually simple. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you want to animate a traffic light. You would just be like, okay, we have a start frame, where there's like a red guy, and then we have an end frame with the green guy who's walking, right? And then we just ask, the video model to create a video of that, right? No, that doesn't work. You get all kinds of fancy. So this one has a green guy, but he's standing, he's not walking. So you have like, it didn't pick that up. Or you have examples like this, where you have like the red guy, but then the green guy does a little shuffle. In the end, for this particular problem, we actually found out that just prompting Veo 2, did the job. So sometimes you can have like an intuition about how you solve a problem, but then in the end, you have to go completely different route. Some of the creative challenges we had, this was where you sort of like need to make a decision about like how we can do different things. So we want to, during the video when she's running, we want to also make sure that the viewer sees a bit of like maybe her pulse or how far she ran. But we can do an animation, but we cannot make the UI on the watch change. So like how do we solve that? And we basically just decided, let's just not show that in the video and then do these overlays. And I think that, that's a perfectly fine, just a creative workaround to that problem, right? So basically, like, just figure out, like, there will be limitations. The models are not perfect, but you can always, like, find out how we can solve the problem. And I think whenever you are working, if you're working, I guess, with cameras and so on, it's pretty easy to predict what you can do. But I think whenever you're using generative AI, the creative process feels more like this. You have an idea, and then you try different things. It's easy to experiment, and then you figure out like something fails. Okay, we cannot go that route. But then you start building on top of that what works, right? So you navigate way more through like trial and error. You maybe have a vision, but you cannot be too stuck on something, right? So you move in this kind of like experiment, figure out like what works, and you can still get really interesting results. But it's important to not, if you keep hammering on something that is just not possible, it doesn't make sense, right? You have to be flexible. Next up, a few slides about audio. So I think this, the audio side is really important for this one. We want to have her inner dialogue. We want to have some sound effects from the city. We want to have like a noisy environment, so it feels like that she's calm and listening to her own inner thoughts, and while the city is noisy. And we also want to have some music. So just a few examples of how you can do that. We have a tool here where you can upload a video, and then it will generate sound effects. You can give it a little bit of a push with a prompt, but you don't need that. And it's basically going to generate this. This is an example of basically pigeons flying. And it's actually, if you listen closely, you can actually hear that once that pigeon, the last pigeon flies into the frame, that there's like, the wings give a bit of a sound. So it's actually synchronizing the sound effects to what's in the video. So really nice feature. You can use that on many different places. It's called Audio, the underlying technology. And then we have the voiceover. And I think just a few words about voiceovers. I think we have seen that, there's incredible technology, for example, from 11 Labs, that can create amazing voiceovers, very convincing. I think 50% of getting a good voiceover is how you write the script. You can get something that sounds really mechanical, really artificial. Very often, it's the script. So let me give you a sample. So this is like an early version of
When
the script.
someone asks you, "How are you?" you usually say, "I'm good." But what is good? For me, good is waking up in the morning, getting dressed, and heading out the door.
So when I'm listening to this like early version, we notice that there's some words like but what is good? It's like she's stopping, and there's not like a natural rhythm to the voice, right? So with the exact same script, we tried changing it. There's also like a very long sentence in the end, and if you listen to spoken language, we don't talk like that. We don't have like a very long sentence. We have like shorter sentences. We have rhythm. So we try to incorporate
When someone
that.
asks, "How are you?" most of us just say, "I'm good." But what is good? For me, it starts before the city wakes. Laces tied, pulse steady, the pavement calling.
So I hope you can hear that there's like a completely different rhythm. It's the exact same voice, but at least I think to me it sounds way better. It's almost like the ending with laces tied, pulse steady, and pavement calling. It's almost like a little rhyme from her. So just some thoughts on the voice over here. The last part is that we want to choose music. And to do that, we're going to starting with the video. It's going to be recommending us a bunch of songs. once it's recommending songs, it's also going to play the video, so we can actually see the visuals, we can hear the voiceover, and then we can hear the music underlying, and then we can quickly pick a good track. So I'm just going to play it, and I'm sorry for you're probably going to be tired of this voiceover when I'm done with this.
When someone asks, "How are you?" most of us just say, "I'm good." When someone asks, "How are you?" most of us just say, "I'm good." When someone asks, "How are you?" most of us just say, "I'm good." When someone asks, "How are you?" most of us just say, "I'm good."
So I think the last one was the one that fit the atmosphere the best. It was like calm and supported the atmosphere we wanted. So I'm going to show the final result, and then we can just reflect a bit on how we got here. While the guys are finding the video, I'll just continue then. So for the video here, we were like 5 people, and around roughly 2 weeks, we burned around 2 million credits, which is roughly $5,000. 5,000 images, or 6,000 images approximately, and about 2,500 clips. So quite a lot of material for creating a 1-minute video. But still, I mean, if you were making an ad of 1 minute in the more traditional process, it would be a way higher cost, way more time. And one of the conclusions is also like AI is around, I would say, like 95% of the way there. Like maybe with VO3, you would say 98%, but there's still some details that you cannot get right. And I think some of the things that is happening with AI right now is that even for a small team, you're able to pull off some pretty incredible things. But of course, like you're not alone doing that. So it lowers the bar for entry, for what you can create. But at the same time, you're also going to see that, we're raising the ceiling. People very soon are going to be used to seeing, incredible videos coming out of VO3 and so on. So, you need more to create an impression with people. And I think still, when we have all these tools, I think the creative process is going to be, more relevant than ever. You have a lot of creative freedom to choose whatever you want to do, and you can do whatever. But it's, there's still like, if you want to stand out, you need to have something unique. And I really like the next quote, which is from Steve Jobs, and he says, "No amount of technology will turn a bad story into a good story." And I think it's more true than ever. You really need the proper storytelling. We can do many fun gimmicky videos with VO3 and the other stuff, but you need to have something to say, right? And finally, I think also there are no experts. Even people who say they are, working with generative AI and so on. Like most people, if they have a lot of experience, it's like what 1-2 years. I don't think people are like experts yet. I still think this is like the web in the 90s, right? We are so early. So I think there are no experts, and I think everybody here, if you want to become an expert, you can do that. I would really like to show the video. Is it working? Two seconds? 2 minutes? 1 minute? Oh, good.
So you don't know what's going on backstage,
Nope.
but we're all frantically trying to figure this out because they put it on a torrent and then someone stole the video.
Oh no.
That's what they told me backstage. Torrents are bad. So we were trying to communicate with you through the timer. So by adding more minutes, we're like sending a secret message.
Okay.
We're like, who's going to
Was it
go
like
out?
binary messages?
Who's going to go out to Martin and tell him that that is what we're doing with the timer? We should have rehearsed this before.
We did technical tests this morning, so yeah. Anyways, stuff
You can
happens.
continue. I'm just going to be here on stage
Actually,
with you.
my slides are done, so we can do a little Q&A.
Yeah, we
while
can do a Q&A. Anyone have questions for Martin? Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Two questions. So the first is, how many LoRa characters can we set up and use in the same prompt?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you're saying like in a prompt, if you choose the direction that I did here, where it's basically you put in like this kind of like system prompt, you can have multiple characters. You just basically describe them in different sections. There was this Creative Labs team. They just recently did a video where we had like multiple characters in the same shot. So you can actually get character consistency with multiple people. Yeah. It's not like this approach is not perfect. So maybe if you look very closely, I think we also saw that with the Wu-Tang Clan this morning. Small details will be different.
Here we
When
go.
someone asks, "How are you?" most of us just say, "I'm good." But what is good? For me, it starts before the city wakes. Laces tied, pulse steady, the pavement calling. Every morning I run, past commuters, cafes, and cabs, through traffic lights and headlines. It's loud, chaotic. But inside, I'm calm. Some mornings, my legs ache. Some mornings, my thoughts do. But I keep going. It might not look extraordinary, but for me, this is good.
No. Good. Thank you, guys.
Someone asks,